Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your cannabis business podcast. Today we've got Katrina Glogowski, angel investor and attorney, back to talk to us about Quana, the company based out of Israel. Katrina, thanks for being back on the podcast.
Thanks, Josh. I look forward to this one.
Yeah, it should be interesting. We're going to see if they identify the business plan goals, if they know the audience, if they understand the market, if they identify needs and roadblocks, whether they know what sets the business apart, if they introduce the team and product, and if they create a summary. Those are the 7 tips to a successful investment deck, according to the Talking Hedge. So with that, Quana, a nose that knows. So their vision is revealing which people with which kind of indication respond to which cannabinoid treatment and how.
That is a sentence and a half, Josh.
That's a tongue twister.
Yeah, I would reword that.
So would I. The challenge is that companies and consumers consistently use metrics that are inconsistent, like strain names, like THC and CBD levels. And most of the world chooses cannabis by either guessing or using their gut. So they'll either be lucky or wrong.
This is entirely true. This is talk about identifying a need in the cannabis market. There's always going to be educated folks. Oh, I want OG Kush, blah, blah, blah. But the average consumer has no idea.
Yeah, and to your point, if you go out and get Blue Dream, which one are you getting? There's probably 50 different, profiles for the same strain. And so you don't really know what you're going to get until you have some kind of analysis like this. So this is a hardware software component that kind of breaks that down into more appropriate terms. So what they do is they've invented a platform that includes an electronic nose along with a mobile app and cloud-based artificial intelligence algorithm that helps the cannabis world to do 3 things: instantly identify molds, pesticides, and residues. 2 is
that already. Talk about a concern in the market. Is what I just bought contaminated? That's worth its weight in gold. I don't know what the price point is, but that is very, very important in this market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, peace of mind is a huge opportunity, right? If you can just have somebody immediately put it in there, even though it's been tested, giving yourself peace of mind before you consume it is key. So that's the first thing that they do. Second thing is they link patients with the most suitable product, and then they aggregate crowd wisdom to offer commercial and pharmacological data.
Okay, how are they going to link me with the best product? But I am really liking the home test kit concept. So let's proceed.
Yeah, I think to answer your question prematurely is it's machine learning. So it's going to take some time and some data to figure that out. But that whole AI algorithm with crowd wisdom, as they call it, is going to be involved with machine learning in the same way that Wikipedia or Leafly works, with people kind of putting in their own information coupled with the technology where it understands based on the aroma. That's why they say the nose knows, the nose understands. So it's not just using a name, like Blue Dream. It's actually taking the plant and digesting that. So hopefully we'll get into that.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, so here we go. How do they do it? So the smell pinpointing plants' bioproperties are digitized to a unique Quana fingerprint. And so suppliers can market offerings published and mapped in the Quana cloud. And that fingerprint is associated with the user, the profile, the medical needs, the user's feedback, and that algorithm, that artificial intelligence algorithm, analyzes those fingerprints and containments and categorizes them. So then consumers link to the most suitable offerings, and then you can get personalized cannabis recommendations, and then sample is declared safe or hazardous.
The lawyer in me is twitching a little bit here. I would never want my product to certify something as safe or hazardous. I would recommend that, especially for the U.S. market, that they use different terms than safe or hazardous. clear, not clear, things, something like that. Also, the recommendation platform, I have a migraine. What are you going to recommend for my migraine? Might start touching the line of providing medical advice. So I would be very interested to see what this is actually telling me about the product. If the product is safe, I don't know about that. And then, this treat your migraine with Blue Dream. I
So
got
some
my
ways,
head there.
ways around that is just changing the word safe to heavy metal free, pesticide free, just use those other words. And the recommendations don't have to come from Quana necessarily. They can come from the other users, right? So there's a lot of other products where people say, oh, this helped me with my migraine. And so if it doesn't come from the company itself, but through, crowds or AI, maybe that's the loophole. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's ways to address this. Certainly the word safe and hazardous, I would caution them from using those exact words, but you can easily get around that, clear, no pesticides detected, same concept, but the word safe and hazardous, quite frankly, would need to go for the US market. And then as far as the recommendations, exactly that. You can say, 5 out of 10 people think this helps them with insomnia, as opposed to say, we recommend it, Blue Dream, for your insomnia. Very same messaging, but handled in a different way.
Mm-hmm. So some of their achievements have been regional level patent application, working platform with an operational prototype, cloud infrastructure, mobile app. They have an ongoing pilot of 40 patients in Israel, actively engaged with Quana on a daily basis. And then 60% of the Israeli medicinal cannabis market has already been Quana fingerprinted and mapped. They are active in this in Israel, one of the leading world locations for research on cannabinoids, THC and CBD.
Yeah, Israel is so much more advanced than the United States. This is good to see. And this is what an established market should look like.
So they put in their business model that consumers benefit from their own free personal cannabis advisor. Commercial services include analysis of consumers' needs and wants, linking those consumers to the most suitable product. They have market demand anticipation. That's part of the machine learning. And then offering segmentation per indication. So, back to your original point of letting the crowd provide those recommendations and actually just getting rid of the word recommendation.
That's how I would handle that. I would not touch or even toe the line of Quana recommends Blue Dream for insomnia. No.
Mm-hmm. So here's the use of proceeds and development phases. They have a pre-pilot with IP and prototype cloud infrastructure with 50 active users. They need 500,000, and that's already been completed. So in process is another 1.3 million to improve their device and IP expansion. And then February of 2021, next year, they plan to go to market with 1,000 devices and are looking to raise 3.2 million for that expansion to get a nice number of 420,000 people involved. And their global expansion, they need mass production, home devices, integration of the supply chain with unlimited active users. Looking for some internal funding for a year and a half from now. So June of 2022 is when they want to have a global expansion after going to market.
I really like this slide, Josh. They have put some thought into this. They haven't said we're going to raise $1 million and get all the way to market. No, they realize it's a multi-step process. They've put out milestones and goals. This is a very nice slide. Our viewers should give some thought to this particular slide. Investors love it.
I would probably up the active users on that go-to-market from 420,000 to 500,000. I just find it difficult to take anything seriously when they include 420. But I do like the fact that they have an annual revenue per active user at an estimated $50. That's really nice to see. You kind of see that with social media sometimes, the cost of a consumer or how much it costs to acquire a new customer. You rarely see that on a deck for products.
Yeah.
But yeah, customer acquisition cost is a nice little key metric. The total addressable market, TAM, is here in billions. And so the global cannabis market, both legal and illicit, stands at 150 billion today, and that it's going to go to infinity later. whatever map you want to use, this is kind of a unique one that I haven't really seen. It's kind of
The
nice.
graphic is unique, but you've said before enough of this slide. But I do like the new graphic. I've never really seen a graph quite like that, so that's nice. At least it's entertaining.
Yeah, it looks like a circus tent.
It does, actually.
All right, next they have milestones and next steps. So their research began in June of 2016, and then they had a first patent in 2017. They had a working prototype in 2019 with molds and pesticide detection added in October, so fourth quarter of 2019. Product launch at Lift Vancouver. We were both at that in January of this last year. So we both kind of, I don't remember these guys, but you said that you remember seeing them.
I have touched this actual product. They were doing live testing on the floor at Lift. I have seen this and touched it.
I'm not sure how I missed that because there was only, maybe 50 booths or something, but there was a lot going on while we were there. So it'd be good to get them on the podcast and have them kind of describe this to us in person next week. So they have the founders on here. That's good. So they got the founder and chief executive officer. I believe he's going to be on the podcast with us next week, along with the chief strategy officer, maybe business development manager. Business strategy, Avi Intes, he's going to be with us next week on the podcast.
They have quite a team, don't they?
Yeah, was that 3 slides that they had? It was
4.
And then it ends. So did I see an ask in here?
Yes, I think they did. They had a fundraising slide, maybe in the wrong spot, but here they did have an ask of 1.3 million.
Right.
Didn't give valuation, but.
All right. Well, let's see where they scored on our 7 tips to a successful investment deck. Did they identify the business plan goals?
Yes, and I think they did very well with that particular requirement.
I concur. Do they know their audience?
Yes and no. There definitely is a concern about what am I actually consuming? Is there heavy metals, pesticides? But also they address the confusion of the average consumer of, what I liked Blue Dream. Why? And then how do I replicate that experience? We've seen companies trying to solve this problem for a while. I recall Cannabinder was trying to do this with their little graphic. And so it is an issue. I do think that they understand the market. Yes.
Was that, did we get to understanding the market, or was that just knowing your audience?
I think that they understand the market and know their audience.
Okay. I would agree with that. I think they understand the market. I would agree with you about knowing the investment audience to more or lesser degree. So we'll go ahead and round up and give them that. Identifying needs and roadblocks. This might be one of the first decks where they just come right out the gate and say, here's our problem, the challenge, boom. Like they just nail you with it. So got to give them that.
Yeah, I like it. Disclose the issue and explain the issue in terms that a non-cannabis person can understand, which they did. Now, what I didn't like about this deck is the roadblocks, and I think we addressed them a little bit. I think the phrasing might there might be a translation issue there, being a foreign company. But do not use words like safe, recommended. No. But again, very easy fix.
Mhm.
And I
And
also I don't think there'd be regulatory roadblocks here. Basically, if I understand their product correctly, it's a home test kit. Doesn't touch cannabis. I bet you could put oregano in there and make sure what you got is actually oregano. So yeah, I'm going to give them a full point there.
yeah, I think the biggest roadblock is making sure that they don't get in their own way by
Yeah.
making recommendations that would just be putting their own roadblock in front of them unnecessarily. So
Right.
they can avoid that entirely in the US.
An easy fix, easy.
Hmm. And then knowing what sets the business apart.
Absolutely. I have not seen a home test kit on the market yet. There's been discussion of home test kits, but I haven't actually seen one that I can hold in my hand. And again, at Lyft, I held this product in my hand. And the consumer does want to know. You can rely on a certificate of analysis. You can rely on a program similar to OK Cannabis that does random testing. That is great. That is wonderful. What about the product sitting in front of me now? And if you are in the medical cannabis market, you definitely do not want contamination in your product. And this allows the consumer to test it at home.
Mm-hmm.
Good on them. There was no discussion of the price point. So I don't know if it's going to be affordable to the average consumer. But again, it does set the business apart, a home test kit. Josh, have you ever seen a home test kit?
I did in November of 2018. I did an interview with a gentleman who is from Israel, working in Labrador, Canada, and he actually told the U.S. Customs at the border what he was doing, and they interrogated him and almost didn't let him in. And the only reason he got into the U.S. to go to Nevada for the marijuana business conference, MJ BizCon, was because he was an intern. The fact that he didn't make any money was the only reason that the U.S. Customs let him through. So he learned his lesson that you're going to a concert or something else. But yeah, he had a little handheld device that would basically kind of try to explain what the outcome would be. So that's been a huge issue about accurate dosing coupled with what is my experience going to be. And so that's what their device is for. But it didn't have this at-home testing component to it. So kind of maybe an improvement on that other competitor's model.
Yeah.
Number 6 is to introduce the team and product. They did more than most people do on that. And then number 7, creating a summary. I think they kind of just ended it fairly abruptly. No call to action.
Yeah, they put their summary slide in the wrong spot, I think. I think it's there. They did address milestones. They did address plans. They did address funding and the use of funds, but they put it in the wrong spot. This slide in particular here, you could argue that's a summary. I think it's the 4th page in their deck, but I'm going to give them a half a point because I walk away with the totality of their presentation understanding.
Well, if we give them half for creating a summary and half for knowing the investment audience, that gives them a 6 out of 7 leaves. That's pretty good.
That is pretty good. And the pitch deck generally, it was well put together. It was clean. It was clear. You could read it. I'm going to give them a little gold star for using a graph that I've never seen. I'm going to now call it the circus tent graph, and I'm going to steal that and use it because I have never seen that before. So that's great. I always like seeing things I've never seen before.
Yeah, that other total addressable map is very, very old and stale. So at least they use something different and unique, and even though getting the same total addressable market point across.
Mm-hmm. I remember these guys very clearly from Lyft. I spoke with them extensively because I liked the product. It meets the need. Um, when I spoke with them, I believe it was in January, they hadn't actually started producing the machines yet. But as a comment as an investor, if you're going to sell the machine for $100 and it costs $100 for you to make, and there's no consumables, no filters, no pads, no chemicals, that's going to be a tough sell to just, if the plan is the subscriber, the home user is going to pay monthly or annually for access to your data, that's pretty weak. I would like to see some consumable in connection with the machine. Filters, they can be 10 cents. It doesn't matter, but you have to drive the consumer, the end consumer, back to you in order to continue to make money. Now, if this is just a play to gather data and sell the data to big pharma, then you need to say that. And they did sort of address a little bit, there's going to be a lot of data coming out of this, and they're effectively crowdsourcing their recommendations, which is fine. But if that is your plan and you're going to sell this to big pharma, that wasn't clear. But other than that, again, I always like when I can touch a product. This is not an idea. This is a company with a product. And I am very, very happy to see companies with product. Now, if they had sales, they might get me to invest.
So I think the machine that you saw is the only functional machine they have. They've got one right now. That's their beta prototype. And their plan or intent, like I mentioned, is to sell the units at cost or close to it, and selling the reports, selling that data. And so that's a huge part. I did mention, I did talk with them about those opportunities to collect a lot of data and sell those reports to manufacturers, to retailers, to kind of highlight what the consumers need and what they want. And so there's a lot of information within that data, because again, with an app, you're giving all your contacts, you're giving everything away. And so there's a tremendous amount of data that comes with that. And of course, financial opportunities if done right.
Then I think they can just make a little one slider and say, this is the data we're going to collect, this is the data we're going to sell, and this is the expected, estimated ballpark income from that data.
And I want to see them also with what sets the business apart to include that the data opportunity and differentiate from Leafly, for example, who just has Blue Dream on there, but it doesn't really go into the profile makeup of each individual phytochemical or strain. If Blue Dream has 50 different types of Blue Dream, it doesn't really help to call it that name. And so to highlight that as a differentiator of why Leafly isn't the best opportunity or best site, maybe they should add what they're going to do with that data and why it's better.
Right. I agree. But I like this one. 6 out of 7.
Yeah, 6 out of 7 is great. So having touched the unit and playing with it up at Lyft in Vancouver back in January and seeing the deck, is this something that you would invest in? What's your take?
I do have a few questions, and I would like them to have a sale or two before I wrote a check. But I do like this company. I like the company concept. I think they are meeting a need, and it is very unique. It is highly unusual at this stage in the cannabis industry to find something truly unique. And I have not seen anyone else do a home test kit along these lines. I'm sure you can always bust out your chemistry set from high school, but this one, there was a line to play with their machine, and they did live demonstrations on the floor, and people loved it. So I'm interested. but I'd like to see a sale.
Yeah, and I think the other highlight is using the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. So they are the university that's been researching this cannabis since the 60s. So I mean, they are the global epicenter of research and development and have a lot of patents and have been patenting this before anybody else even thought about it. So they definitely have an amazing strategic partner being the Hebrew University of Jerusalem.
It's great. It is truly great. Israel is about to come online to start exporting, very similar to Canada, which we're all very interested to see what such an established cannabis market. And you're like, wait a minute, there's no cannabis market in Israel. Yeah, they're a lot further along than people realize. They know their strains, they know their science, and they're just not out there screaming about their strains and their science yet, but it's coming. And I'm very excited to see what we get out of Israel. And if it's things like this, $100 home test kit, what else do you have? It's going to be great.
They're easily the world's leader in medical marijuana research, and if this company can make this product transportable, I didn't see it. So is it big? Is it clunky? Do you have to plug it in? Is it transportable?
My recollection of course, I didn't measure it. It was about as wide as a 2-liter bottle of soda, and about half as high.
Did you have to plug it in, or is it based on batteries?
I don't recall that because it was on the table, so I don't recall. But you basically take you take the top off, you put your product in there, and then it makes a sound like a whirring sound type thing, and then beeps when it's done. And they had their phone connected to it, and then they would just show you. And they had samples for themselves, and where they wanted to show you what the different strains were. But what was very interesting is the consumer, the attendees at the conference, could drop what they had in there too. And of course, when you do 1,000 samples with the whole line, you can question the validity of those results. But people were finding all sorts of weird stuff. It was interesting and live on the floor, functional. And it drew a lot of interest, Josh.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it is unique and niche and new. So like you said, it's kind of hard at this point in time to get all of that in one at this point. So interesting to see, when they come out with it, all of that data that comes along with it is going to be pretty interesting to take a look at.
Yeah. Great company.
All right. 6 out of 7. Not too shabby. So with that, we're going to roll this one up. I want to thank my guest, Katrina Glogowski. She's an angel investor and attorney in Seattle. Thanks again for being back on the podcast.
Thanks, Josh.
I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out.